attended the meeting with the Prime Minister of local government officials in contravention of his political leaders' instructions.
Well, he didn't. The Prime Minister wasn't there, so that's inaccurate.
Okay, well, wasn't the Prime Minister the one who called the meeting?
He called the meeting, but he didn't attend.
Okay. He's still recovering from COVID?
No, he was. I think the information that was in the media was that he didn't attend because of the UNC boycott. Give the results.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so we had 22 people voting on the poll this morning. Of that 22, 18 of you said yes. You side with the UNC councillor, and 4 of you said no. You do not support what the councillor did. So 18 of you said yes. 4 of you said no. You can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day and through all programming, and we'll give you the final result tomorrow morning, which will be Friday. The most beloved day of the week, probably by so many people.
So is MP on the line, Steve?
She wants 1 minute. All right.
So we are seeking.
I'm calling her by phone. She has
the Member of Parliament for St Augustine, in which I think the councillors is Warrenville. It is. Is it? Or am I mistaken? Kelly Village, Warrenville. Is that within St Augustine constituency?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
The constituency expert is Wendell. Like this, I don't know. Like I think all MPs learn those boundaries, boy. They say learn that.
Well,
you can't go up to be a representative in local government or as a member of parliament. Learn the boundaries.
I know Khadijah may be the shadow minister for local government, so that's why her contribution is material.
She's the shadow minister of what?
Local government.
Oh, okay.
She has a local government background. She was chairman of the Tunapuna-Piako Regional Corporation for a number of years.
Yeah.
So she has a lot of experience in local government. And she really understands it very well, having served for many years as a councillor and then the chairman of the corporation. So, 718. So the vast majority of our respondents indicated they supported Councillor Sankar's attendance of the meeting. The sad thing about it is that he said he's getting death threats now. And of course, the social media vitriol against him and his family is all over the internet. Why does it always have to descend into that?
Not true.
So you can't disagree in a civil matter. You have to disagree and denounce and disparage and denigrate and it is just so. The political climate in this country, tragic to say the least. Tragic to say the least.
So what was accomplished in that meeting if the Prime Minister didn't attend?
I got to say something, but I behaving myself.
I don't know why you started now.
Somebody get on TV and news.
Or Faris took over? Is that what you suggested?
7:19 on the 11th of August. If you're celebrating a birthday,
is that what you're suggesting today? That's
well, I don't know what was accomplished. I ain't seen nothing striking come out of the meeting. Did you hear any revelation? Did you hear the local government election date? Did you hear anything that you didn't hear before?
Did Wendell attend?
Yes, he did. He didn't stay the whole meeting, he said, but he attended. So I don't know what new. I mean, I guess they went over some of the new parameters of the new law to be fully proclaimed, which will mean councillors are full-time, etc. But all that in the news already.
Right.
All that,
which I know Wendell is not in favor of.
But he's not in favor of people not being able to work.
Yeah.
Or have another job while being a councillor.
Yeah.
based on the possible package, but we don't know what the package is yet. They know what the package is. The package to be determined by, but the thing about it is that the reason for that is that they want the practitioners to give their all to this job. The part-time
Can
thing has not
MPs
worked.
work? Can members of parliament work, even
No.
though they're members of parliament?
The full members of parliament, no, not to my understanding. But let me put it this way: cabinet members.
But cabinet members can't.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they would be full-time.
Yeah, cabinet members.
But
But when you say members of parliament, remember, I'm a member of parliament, but that doesn't mean that, and I could work otherwise. But when you say cabinet, is something else.
yeah,
You know.
because I'm sure. I mean, I have no clue.
And then there are members of parliament who are in the lower house who I think are allowed also to ply their trade, their profession. But cabinet members, I don't think can work otherwise.
So why are they putting that burden on local councillors? Simply
I think
because
they want to call it full-time in terms of the categorization of public offices.
Because I'm just thinking, if I understand how Parliament works, they're going to see a member of Parliament as being superior in package to a local government council.
Some members of parliament. Is the MP there, Steve?
Yep, and she has promised to drop off some coconut bake for me for breakfast because she got up early this morning to make it. Khadijah Ameen, good morning.
Steve, requesting coconut bake does not translate into a promise to deliver.
Good morning.
Are you saying that you cannot
You
deliver?
understand exactly what he has put you in, Khadijah.
Because he's
We
always
understand
begging
Peter.
for food from somebody.
Let me send you.
Always begging for food.
Wait.
Always begging somebody for food.
Me telling you that I make coconut bake does not mean that I will be able to deliver it, and then you go and tell people I
Or that it was made for him.
Look at that coconut bake. I send it to you guys. Look
Or
at
that it was made for him. Good
I
morning.
need to get a piece of that.
Good morning, Madam MP. Thank you for joining us on short notice.
Good morning, guys. Good morning.
I miss you.
Some of my favorite people in the media.
I miss you so
miss me
much.
because you don't call me. My number has not changed.
Well, Gil, I have to be careful who are calling these days. You know, there's pong me left and right and center these days.
Well, you don't worry. You can call me. You're safe.
I don't want to call you and put you in trouble.
All right. I appreciate it.
You know, all our phones are monitored in parentheses.
Of course.
Thank you for joining us
We
this
have
morning. How is your
nothing to
son?
hide. We have nothing to hide. Don't
I
be
have
worried.
nothing to hide, but I don't want any inferences. You know, people is inventing and circulating on social media these days.
Aye.
How is your son, first of all?
He is doing well.
Very good.
Every day I am more proud of my dedication as a mother because he's a real gentleman. Up to yesterday, he cooked food. My man make potato pie. I'm so proud.
Papa.
Yeah.
So you're getting him ready for the world. That's wonderful. All right, so there's this new controversy about Councillor Sankar. Poll this morning was, do you support the move by Councillor Sankar to attend the meeting in contravention of the boycott called by his political leader? And Richard, what was the result?
18 people said yes, 4 people said no.
So, Ms. Ameen, MP, why should he not have attended, in your opinion? Or what is the rationale for the boycott one? And why do you think, let's start with why do you think he should not have attended, if that's what you think?
Well, Councillor Sankar, along with all the PNM councillors and aldermen who attended, were abandoned by the Prime Minister. So it doesn't matter who attended in terms of whether the UNC councillors attended or not. The fact is the Prime Minister did not attend, and there was an invitation that said that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Local Government would be meeting with councillors. And, after 6-7 years of total neglect to local government, and there are either two reasons. Either the Prime Minister intended...
But let's put a pause. Even before the Prime Minister didn't attend, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa called on the UNC councillors to boycott the meeting. So Why
Yes.
would that have been from your perspective?
My position is if the meeting was important, the Prime Minister would have continued with the meeting. It is either he did not intend to attend the meeting, because I understand there were other functions where the people were told that he is still on quarantine. If he was on quarantine, did Faris Alwari lie to the councillors to say the Prime Minister would be there? And if he was in fact intended to attend, then the councillors, whether UNC attend or do not attend, you are in charge, you are in government. If your interest in local government is genuine, then that meeting would have been a priority, and it clearly was not.
Do you approve of the councillor attending or disapprove?
Well, Councillor Sankar made his own choice. The leader would have issued a statement following consultation with our councillors, and Sankar was present. Our councillors were not in favor. I mean, that was the sentiment expressed. And Kamala Prasad Bisesa has always been a listening leader. She would advise, she would listen, she would take views into consideration. Councillor Sankar never expressed in the meeting. He was given, all councillors were given the opportunity. He never expressed the view that he should attend or he wishes to attend. He did not inform his colleagues of that. I think it would be interesting to get the views of Councillor Sankar's purchases. If you really want to get, the views. Getting the views of the wider public who do not know Councillor Sankar is one thing, but maybe the views of his Burgesses would be very valuable.
He said he attended because he made a pledge to serve the people, and that was part of serving the people. How do you respond to that? Do you think it is a valid response?
Well, I think that would be the validity of that would be revealed if his attendance bears fruit. So will your electoral district get additional support? That electoral district has been plagued by flooding. Kelly Village, Warrenville, Caroni, St Helena, Madras Road, and so on. Plagued by poor drainage and stuff. The only time we had any real development work there was when UNC was in government. And we had that Piaco, that road from the Caroni roundabout that takes you to the airport, that has the St Helena bypass. That entire strip was also developed during that time, and several other developments. So the measure in Councillor Sankar's, the validity of Councillor Sankar's claim will come if it bears fruit for his electoral district, and I highly doubt that will happen.
Will you the shadow minister local government? Is that true? Is that correct? Accurate?
Yes, I shadow local government as part of my portfolio.
Based on what you see coming out of the media reporting on the meeting, do you think it was a productive meeting?
The Prime Minister did not attend. Faris Alwari in sharing what the meeting would have discussed did a poor job, because he spent so much time trying to blame Kamala for the failure of the Prime Minister to show up at the meeting. And even in the things that he mentioned, I am worried, I am concerned, because he mentioned that the legislation changes the term of a councillor from 3 years to 4 years. And I'm concerned that may be an excuse to postpone the election. He also spoke about a timeline in terms of deliverables in the reform and a timeline to implement those things. That too has been used in the past as an excuse for postponing local government elections. I hope they do not. The government does not intend to postpone the elections. Give people the opportunity, as is their democratic right, to vote. And just because the government has the power to go to Parliament, but a simple majority, and postpone the election does not mean that they should deprive the population of that opportunity to exercise their democratic right.
Khadijah, is it that, and I know one of the reforms would be that councillors would be full-time and they would not be allowed to have another job. What's your position, or the UNC's position on that?
The Executive Council executive councillors will be full-time. And what this means, it is very similar to what you see in Parliament. All councillors are elected just as all MPs are elected. But some are in the minority or in the majority, but some are in cabinet and some are not in cabinet. The executive council are similar to the cabinet members. They hold portfolios such as infrastructure, public health, finance, and so on. So what is now the chairman of a committee in a council is now the part of an executive council or a cabinet. So those persons who do not hold such portfolio, they are not the chairman of a committee, which is usually the minority. They are now considered, those in the cabinet or executive council are now required to be full-time. And those who are not, could continue to be part-time, just as it is for members of parliament now. Those, if you are in cabinet, you cannot continue a practice. For instance, if you have a medical practice, you have a legal practice, you must give up those things. And there's the same thing that will happen. There are pros and cons, of course. Being full-time means you dedicate more time to functioning at the council. It is a full-time job. On the other hand, though, it means that people who are professionals, who, for instance, an attorney at law, an engineer, any other professional who wishes to serve their country will have to give up their practice for the duration of their term, which is 4 years. So there are pros and cons, but of course, once you know that in advance, you make that decision as an engineer, as a medical doctor, as a law attorney at law. Do I wish to give up my practice for 4 years to serve this council? And that is, of course, your personal decision. So we may lose some people who are professionals who could bring good value to local government. But that doesn't prevent those people from serving as an elected councillor, but not on the executive. And they will still have the opportunity to advise the council and to have an input in decisions once, of course, the majority allows it.
But it also depends on the offered remuneration package, because there's a practical life situation there in terms of people taking care of themselves and their families.
Well, certainly, but also remember, for a professional, you're talking about a career that spans a lifetime. So if you are a medical doctor, do you give up all the surgeries that you can perform, all the patients that you see? Do you give up your practice? And then when you give up your practice, it means that you lose patients, you lose clients. If you're an attorney, you lose clients and so on. So it's not only about the money, it is also about your career and your practice and giving up that.
Well, losing clients is also losing money, yeah?
Well, yeah, of course, but it is not just a simple 4-year term, because for 4 years, of course,
there are implications past the 4 years.
But past that, certainly, you'll have to rebuild your career, rebuild your practice. So it is a professional and personal decision that people who want to serve will have to consider, when the time comes. But certainly, having full-time persons in local government is a plus. Having the remuneration improved is excellent, because we have been asking for councillors are probably the lowest paid people in the country if you look at the public service. But one of the things that I have a concern with is that the Minister of Finance determines how much a councillor is paid. And the concern, of course, is that no political creature should decide the salary for another political creature. That is something that is very concerning. It is a poor practice in terms of public administration and accountability and so on. And you must have checks and balances so that politicians don't decide how much politicians get. But certainly there was a need for the salary to be increased, and I always feel that we should do things properly. Just as in the job market, in the employment world, you will do an assessment of what the job requires, what it entails, and look at similar jobs and throughout the country and see what the salary is, and you pay according to that. So to me, I feel that, many companies do that to determine the salary for a position based on what the duties will be and what somebody who normally performs those duties is paid. And you can do that type of assessment. There's a professional, there are parameters and so on. And I think if you work with something like that, you depend on something more scientific rather than the whim and fancy of a politician. It's just my humble opinion.
Going back to the issue of Councillor Sankar, in the newspapers this morning, he is said to be receiving threats and attacks on social media. Your perspective on that in terms of the response to his decision to attend the meeting and the threats to his life and the insults to his family?
Well, I'm not aware of it. I haven't seen the newspaper, and I'm very shocked to hear that. I am sure that Councillor Sankar knows that there are people in the party, particularly myself, whom if any councillor, any UNC councillor is facing any danger or threat, that I, of course, am one of the first people who would provide support to those persons. So Councillor Sankar could feel free to reach out. I don't expect that anybody would threaten. I could understand that people could express their disapproval, but for there to be serious threat, that certainly will not come from the UNC. I don't see anybody threatening Councillor Sankar or his family. He may feel intimidated by people expressing non-support for his action. But I don't see that translating into threats against his life or against his family. That is not something I condone. And of course, Councillor Sankar is free to reach out to me. I saw him just the night before he attended the meeting, give him a box, and my lines are always open. But I certainly don't condone threats, but I question whether it is a threat or if it is that somebody expressing their differing view, is something that we take in stride as politicians.
Well, I saw a post last night that described his action as treasonous. And you know what treason is associated with, unfortunately?
I know people feel betrayed. I understand that. But as I
treason?
say, I remain open. I do not condemn. I do not condone any forms of threat to people's lives or people's family. And when we serve in public office, we are open to scrutiny and criticism. And if Councillor Sankar took a bold action, of course there will be people who will be vehemently against what he did, and they may express that they are vehemently against what he did. As I say, that is acceptable to express that you felt betrayed and so on, but it is not acceptable to have threats against any person or their family, especially threats against their life. So
being someone who's walked the entire gamut of local government, what do you feel are the major challenges from councillor all the way to chairman of the Tunapuna Piaka Corporation and now Shadow Minister Labour? What do you think are the challenges in local government, even with the new arrangements coming into place?
I think because I have served in local government, both under the PNM and under the UNC, the difference I see is that under the UNC, all delivery within a region is done in collaboration with the corporation, planning and deciding what goes where, and the priority. Local government is part of governance, and under the PNM, local government is separate from central government. So ministries come and they deliver a project, and you hear about it because the residents call you and tell you they're doing something. You don't have collaboration and local government being part of the decision making. The resources that are given to local government, because of the wide range of services they provide as well, is much different. Now, you may argue that, there's a downturn in the economy, we have less revenue coming into the country, and so they get less money. This is not about money. This is about the professionals who are employed and engaged in each regional corporation, planning officers, engineers, as is required by the Act, financial advisors, and so on. and the giving the regional corporations the power to engage in local tourism development, for instance, local economic development. It's not just about road and box train and picking up garbage. And what I have seen is because the PNM really undervalues the role local government play and could play, you have that depletion in funding, but you also have them being left out of decision making where development within the region is concerned. And as a councillor, having served as a chairman, I think, and in my region, Tunapuna Piako, we had 9 constituencies. We had quite a large number. We went from Blanchishes, the North Coast, to Monroe Road as our southern boundary. And I saw different types of communities, agricultural, rural, developing, and then you had the town center of Tunapuna and St. Joseph and Aruka and so on. And you saw how much the delivery from central government working with local government impacted the lives of people in a more meaningful way. Yeah?
One of the issues with local government, of course, is funding. We had heard information about a special fund to be allocated to various corporations. Is there an update on that? Had that come to fruition? And if so, what was the effect?
No, you see, the wording of these people is kind of throw you off. There is going to be a special fund for secondary roads. And there is going to be a special purpose company to do secondary roads. The money remains with the central government, and money has been allocated in the last budget, in the last midterm review, to this company that has not yet been formed. And I am waiting for the budget where you have part of the budget is the review of the funding in the last financial year. And I'm really curious to see how this money is being utilized. And what it does is take the power away from the local government once again. If you form a special purpose company that is outside of the regional corporations, that is where the directors are appointed by the government and the central government, again, and they depend on funding from the government, they do not fall under the regional corporations. If they pave any secondary roads, of course, we are very happy to see some development. But again, it takes power away from local government.
You know, that has always been an issue, Khadijah, the issue of roads in cities, towns, villages across Trinidad and Tobago, the issue of that infrastructure of pavements and roads has always been problematic for the burgesses that live in those areas. And it just seems as if there is some incapacity, because when we ask sometimes the Minister of Works, when we interview him, he's very clear on what roads come under the ambit of the Ministry of Works and what roads come under the ambit of the local government bodies. But ultimately, it's the citizens that suffer by having to navigate bad roads throughout Trinidad and Tobago every single day. I don't think there's anybody in any part of Trinidad and Tobago that traverses only wonderful roads every single day. I don't think that exists unless you're just driving your car outside of your gate and parking it back inside.
Well,
you must encounter bad roads.
I can tell you that Rohan Sanaran, in a newspaper article I read, he said only 21% of the roads in the country fall under the Ministry of Works. The rest, the 79%, fall under local government. Two things I ask. Does local government get 79% of the funding allocated to roads in the national budget? It does not. The second thing is so many of the ministry's roads are badly dilapidated. You have landslips, you have serious, I don't even know if to call them potholes, craters. And the local government bodies have been using their scarce material and labor to attend to those roads. So the Naparima Mayaro Road, Todd's Road, and several of those other roads that fall under the Ministry of Works, the corporation take their material. Mind you, they are hardly getting money to buy material, and the little they get, they attend to those roads because those are major roads. You had a car flip on a road somewhere down in Manahambri because of the poor condition of the road. So I just want to say that the 21% of roads under Ministry of Works being abandoned and neglected is having an impact on the regional corporations who do not get the volume of funding that the ministry gets to deal with their highways and major roads.
Well, I assume the Ministry of Works is going to get a bigger budget because they deal with all kind of projects with flyovers and stuff like that. But you're making a valid point. There has to be some sort of proportionate expenditure if you expect the road networks in all of the towns and villages to improve. And it seems to be an age-old problem of that kind of resource allocation to local government bodies to get the job done. Because I mean, I have lived in Trinidad and Tobago all my life, and I can't remember a time when all of the roads were wonderful. I don't
But they
know
were
if you.
certainly better under the previous government.
Well, I mean, I understand you saying that. You will blow your own trumpet, but the issues for the vast majority of citizens.
But that was a fact. I don't understand how the PNM is just blatantly ignore fact.
Well, I am not.
PNM, I like that phrase.
First of all,
all your PNM.
well, first of all, I'm not a PNM.
All your PNMs, madam.
Let me correct you and put you in your place,
And
Khadijah.
neither am I. Let's put it on the record.
I am not a member of the People's National Movement, and I hold no brief for the People's National Movement nor the UNC. I call it like I see it.
You cannot be afraid to credit the UNC when credit is due. The fact is more roads were in a better condition under the previous government.
I will say that the UNC did develop certain roads, because there are certain roads when I'm in certain areas that I'm like, oh, when did this road? I remember that whole road network going to that Ministry of Licensing office down in Caroni there, and that the development of that road there was at the point I hadn't gone there for years, and when I went there, I was pleasantly surprised on how built up it was. So I'm not saying no, and I'm sure the PNM will also tout that they did roads too. But the reality is our road infrastructure has always been lacking. And I don't know what is the solution. Do we have a solution, either party, in getting our road infrastructure to a level and condition that citizens would be amazed? Because if all the roads we traverse every day were all properly paved, Trinidadians and Tobagonians would be amazed. Is there any solution to this problem, or is this something that we just have to live with?
What is required is two things. Not only money, it is also expertise. The regional corporations, by law, is required to have an engineer. Having well-qualified engineers and planning officers at regional corporations is a part of the solution. I remember when I was chairman of the regional corporation, the ministry took, for the first time, took the decision to provide these professional persons, planning officers, financial advisors, engineers, medical doctors in public health to each regional corporation, because it was there in law, but it had never been implemented. So that was done, and that gave a tremendous lift to the quality of product and services that we were able to deliver at regional corporations. The collaboration with the ministries as well also allowed us to deliver a lot of projects. So if I, at a regional corporation, am given a certain allocation, I could engage one of those special purpose companies to work with my engineer to do a project that requires special expertise. So you can do that as well. And there would also be national projects that would require support from the local government body. But certainly when you have, as I say, if you have national projects, if you plan to pave a road and WASA plans to replace the main there, and you don't collaborate, that is why WASA does come and dig up the road as soon as you pave it. But you must have that collaboration between the national agencies and local government. So it is not just about how much money you put the needs that come from local government, from because local government is so much closer to the people, gives you a different eye. And having that collaboration, but to do that, the party in government must believe that local government is important, and that is how priority goes there. And I think maybe because Kamala Prasad Bichesas once served as an alderman, she had that eye, and in terms of how important councillors are. And maybe Patrick Manning had it a bit too, because he, or from what I understand, his mother was a local government councillor. So maybe he had that perspective that allowed him to operate a little differently with councillors. But then he postponed the election for 4 years, the local government election, you know.
How is St Augustine doing? You're MP for St Augustine. I know that I have friends in Valsine who experience flooding if rain falls for half an hour. And also, because of your association in the past with the Tunapuna Piako Corporation, and the number of people who live in that corporation serves, what are the major challenges? Is it still the funding thing, the infrastructure thing, the intervention when there's flooding?
Oh, certainly. If I can tell you, in St Augustine constituency, I see neighboring constituencies who have PNM representatives get more projects than St Augustine gets. I still continue to make a strong representation on behalf of Burgesses. I can tell you just recently there's a major project done in the Tunapuna constituency, and all the water is thrown into St Augustine constituency. The drain just ends abruptly, and you have the entire street turn into a river in Back Street in Tunapuna there. And whereas the project has 3 phases, and in terms of engineering, the best practice is always to start from the outfall and come up. And that didn't happen because the outfall is in St Augustine constituency, and the project was to provide a solution for Tunapuna constituency. So making decisions along political lines like that is impractical, and is just pure wickedness to the citizens. But where you have the regional corporation required to give services, they can give so little, because I do examine their finances, which is made public through the parliament and budget, and you see where they do not even get the money they need to keep all the workers, all the employees in the corporation. So in order for them not to have 300-400 people lose their jobs, they have to take the money they would have bought material with or other things with, to ensure that those workers do not lose their jobs. And very often they literally have no money for material, and when they do get material, they have 16 councillors in that corporation, from all the way from Blanchishare's North Coast to Monroe Road in Cunupia, and I am 1 out of 9 constituencies in St Augustine for the Tunapuna region. So their ability to do the work is I feel frustrated, because as a member of parliament, I am on the ground and with my constituents every day. In terms of the social ills, where you have people who genuinely need it, and they have to go to social welfare, they have to stand up in front of a tent, they have to go from 4 a.m. to take a number, and they are in this hot tent. It's inhumane. Many people get turned down, and you know they genuinely need it. You know, and the system for approving and assessing people is something that really has a lot of question marks. So it's not only the physical infrastructure, but the social infrastructure, the opportunity to grow and develop. But I have been, that is one of the things that I find recently, is that I do feel frustrated, but I also have been driven to work with NGOs to deliver and impact on people's lives. So, for instance, on next week, I will be giving 200 book packages, book bags and uniforms to children because of NGO input. Recently, I launched a project where we are planting 1,000 trees, and many of those trees are food-bearing trees, breadfruit and tomatoes and so on. And I'm engaging my constituents where we have situations with flooding. What we do not get done through the drainage division or the regional corporation, we have been able to get NGOs to support volunteer work.
I'm glad you're working with NGOs. In our final few moments, let me ask a question here. The UNC is obviously offering itself up as an alternative for governance to the PNM. In whenever 24? That's the next election? National?
The general election is due in 2025.
2025, right. Do you think the opposition is spending enough time offering a different solutions as opposed to chastising the government on its inefficiencies and underperformance in many ways? Because I'm quoting from one of the newspapers yesterday, which 3 political analysts, or a couple of days ago anyway, said the government is underperforming in many areas. And as the opposition, you have a right to highlight that. But do you think there is enough focus from the opposition on presenting alternative solutions so that the population has a choice in terms of that kind of balance of information?
I think what happens is that the media attention goes to controversy. So the front page is one councillor who attended a meeting that the Prime Minister didn't show up for. The front page, will the front page ever be UNC has an economic transformation plan? You know, because we sell controversy, and that is how what happens. But through the social media, the UNC has been able to carry all of their content in terms of what we say on the platform, and it's available for citizens. So there is an economic transformation plan where you can see in various regions you have different growth in terms of different drivers, different economic drivers. You do have a plan for the recovery of the economy and providing jobs and diversification of the economy. So those things are available, and we do talk about it. In fact, I can tell you one of the things that in every speech that we have at the Monday night, it is part of it may criticize the government and highlight an issue, but part of it also speaks to solution. So if you listen carefully, you will hear it. But if you are in the media and you are not aware of it, perhaps we need to do a better job.
I'm not saying I'm not aware of it. I'm saying the balance of information is what is critical. And I understand what you're saying is right. The media will cover the controversial parts because that's what sells. Or we've been socialized to accept that's what sells. But unless somebody listens to the whole Monday Night Forum, which is unlikely in most people's scenarios, you're not going to get that balance of information that you say you're sharing. You know, so I guess there needs to be some sort of...
Yeah, we do have our website. So, for instance, you will have videos with the economic transformation plan. You will have short videos and short clips, not of people speaking, but you do this in sort of informational kind of videos and so on. So we do have a website and a Facebook page where these things are available. We also have little clips on historic things on prime ministers and independence and important events in the past and so on. If people wish, they could peruse it. But certainly, I think perhaps as we go into local government, for instance, if the media focuses more on what are your plans, what are your reasonable expectations, perhaps we could uncover more in terms of allowing the population to make decisions more on what is being offered as opposed to the bacchanal and that kind of thing.
Khadijah, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time and your contribution.
Thank you so much. It was good hearing from you guys.
Yep, yeah, great to hear from you also.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Be safe.
Coconut Bake will arrive soon. Thank you.
Oh, here I'm begging for food. Lord.
Recording stopped.
So good at bake, look. Anyway. Alrighty. Before we get into our 8 o'clock newscast, being asked what is the traffic like heading into Port of Spain. So let me check that out. It's not too bad. Alright, going to